those programs where it's like, we do this for 2 weeks and you do this intensive thing where you come to these sessions and blah, blah, blah. And by the end, you have your huge breakthroughs and, and then we have the next class for you, whatever. It's like you have this program that is very fixed and you have these specific exercises and there's this pressure to get something out of it, right? So I went to this thing that was a weekend long and they're hounding you to make these life-changing phone calls because they're on a Saturday afternoon between 3 and 4 during our break time. That's the moment where you call up that person that you haven't spoken to in 15 years and you take this approach to the conversation and you see how it goes. I mean, for some people, they need that push. They have a cool conversation. I did the exercise, definitely got a benefit out of it, but it doesn't feel like you're in charge of your growth. And then what happens is, well, and I'll quickly say the alternate is that like sort of lifelong therapy or support group thing where you don't really know if you're making progress and the person is not interested in you graduating out of their situation. A good therapist wants you to be able to move forward, but some people will just like, it's like or the person themselves gets endlessly lost in this thing forever because they never identify with getting over it. But these programs where they have this very fixed, we're taking you through these crazy mental exercises and journaling gymnastics and all of this in this intense hyped weekend experience or week-long thing, you become extremely dependent on them. Like you feel like they own the ability to unlock yourself. They know better than you because they've led you through these things that you didn't know existed, that have created results that you didn't know that you could have. You likely entered the program because you were in some form of crisis or real dead end, right? So like with a coach, I can see there's just some maybe adjustments that you want to make, or you want to be more of a leader, or maybe you're at a huge impasse in your life. But some of these very fixed programs will sort of, they're built to and have a price tag on them that they're like your Hail Mary option. And you go in, they change your life, and then they tell you at the end of the weekend, by the way, everything that happened this weekend is completely useless if you don't continue on with the program. And they hard sell you and they, take advantage of you or whatever. I've done 2 of these, you guys. Never made it to the next phase of the program, but I had to like beat these people off with a stick, not literally, at the end. And they're making you feel like your life is on the line if you don't spend the next $1,500, and like, how much is your life worth to you? And it's very manipulative. And you have become completely like an embryo, like you're like in utero during that weekend. And then you feel like you're incapable without this program. And then there are people who are lifers in these things. And they, and then there's obviously a financial exploitation element that is almost impossible to avoid when you have a setup like that. And then you launch into cult territory where they're just like raiding your finances. So, and maybe, some of your other boundaries. So yeah, I just think I like that there is an empowerment of the individual being coached, that they are forming their own path. Individuals, excuse me, the system, the relationship system. And that there is a sense that we're actually going to make some kind of progress. You're going to decide when that happens. And then our project will be over for the moment unless you want to do more.
Right. And, I say, let's get into the cult in a moment, because I, of course, have opinions on that one. So, but for the coaching itself, it is this, yes, of course, as a coach, because when you do the first assessment with people, you talk to them and you hear different things that are possible or that are lingering. And as a coach, also my own coaching experience, I had 20 hours. So, and that was a year. And let's say after 10, I was at a point of, okay, this is different. But after 20, 20 is long. That's a lot. So, and that is, let's say a year is a lot. And that was just really when you can really go into, you have the time to really unearth things and go deeper and deeper in finding yourself. I'm now talking from the aspect of the client. So, also as a coach, when you first get to know somebody, you need to build the trust first. And so that means that coaching sessions get better, because you need to learn the same language, understand how you function each other. There is an agreement between how the people work with each other, and there's also an agreement how the people want to work with the coach. And then how to put that into real, as it just into practice. Of course, it's with everybody. When you know each other better, and I'm sure you had that with your therapist, you need to first get to know your therapist, to trust your therapist. It's the same with a coach. So what the other part that you described when it is about cult territory. So those people, I said, I would never go to anything like that, because it is this, they feed off the fact that, of course, when you are in a group, that you can create this atmosphere. What I said in the beginning of this video, the moment you have a group, and you have a group that is very, has a lot of high expectations of that something happens, so they already come in, they actually create this possibility as a team. They create a possibility that people have those experiences. And yeah, then you get out of it. So you have this weekend, you have this awesome experience that is created by this wave, by this energy of all the people being together and wanting to experience something positive. And yes, those experiences are real. I'm not saying they're fake. Those experiences in those moments for the person are real. However, then you send them out into their normal life where you don't have this atmosphere around you. And what then happens is they cannot recreate it, or they cannot maintain it. And that is where it gets risky. Because then when somebody says, hey, I have the next course, it just costs you double what the first one cost you, then you pretty much draw them in and say, now I create again this environment where I can, where you find this atmosphere. And by the way, in our coaching, we call it third entity. It's this, you find it, you have this awesome experience for a weekend. You're just empowered, and you get out of it into your normal life. And can you maintain it or not? What you did is you actually did it in a good way. You went there, you took something out of it, but you walked away and then said, what of it can I now maintain, or how do I want to, what I learned, adjust for me in my life? So you made this learning process yourself. And that is how it's supposed to be. I say, now we're back to coaching. Coaching is, you have this experience in the coaching. How do you then move forward in your life to take that without a coach, that you still learn and grow from it?